this evening's webinar, and thank you for joining. It's always good to hear your voices when we don't get to see each other face to face. This webinar is going to talk about FAAR, PAAR, and Karnea, two events that are coming up in the very near future. Make sure that all the information you needed as advisors, that way you can be prepared to counsel your undergraduates in your chapter as they come back from spring break and are looking forward to the end of the semester, as well as just recapping the PAAR. I know we covered it quite heavily during division conferences, but we want to take just a step back and look at it more of a advisor point of view than the undergraduate point of view, which was kind of the focus during the conferences. So those are the three topics that we're going to cover this evening. I do not anticipate this taking the whole hour, but if we get into a good discussion and there's a lot of questions, I am more than happy to stay the whole time. So, to begin with, on the line also with us is Andy Longo. He is the director of fraternity programs here with Delta Tau Delta, and he actually is the main planner of Karnea. So I invited him on this evening to talk about Karnea and what you need to know as an advisor as we start going into the summer. So I will hand it over to Andy.
Thanks, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about one of my favorite events every 2 years, and that's our biennial convention, where 600 to 700 delts gather in a city to do the business of the fraternity, to elect its officers, to conduct legislative business, to celebrate fraternity, to educate ourselves and to learn about what's going on in the Delt world, in the fraternity world, and really just to share the sights and sounds of our host city and to enjoy brotherhood. Karnea is one of those things that really it serves many masters. We have worked hard over the last several years to define what Karnea is and isn't. Yes, it's an educational experience. Yes, we break bread together, but really we've kind of come down to Karnea is a celebration of fraternity and of the Delt brotherhood. And even for us members who aren't Delts, which is me and some of our other staff members, we still celebrate the opportunity of fraternity, because while there are many, many tribes around the country, fraternal tribes, we share many, many things and similar, so it's always a joy to share fraternity and to share those common bonds in some ways. Karnea begins on July 23rd, 2014, where our host city is New Orleans. Sometimes I say sights and sounds and smells of our host city, in the case of maybe not New Orleans, I don't know. Maybe some good sounds, good smells of some good food in our host city of New Orleans. But we start on the 23rd, and Karnea concludes on Saturday, July 26th at the banquet. Most people leave the hotel and check out on the Sunday after Karnea. A couple of things to keep in mind about Karnea. We will, if you're a delegate of your chapter, and chapters can have an alumnus delegate, and all this is explained on the website, delts.org, the Karnea tab in the registration section. We do have a business session that begins at 4 o'clock on Wednesday, July 23rd. That's the opening business session where the international president gavels Karnea open, and the business session actually begins. We have some programming that afternoon for non-delegates, but majority of folks will attend that first business session. That evening at 8 o'clock is our official Karnea welcome and Karnea kickoff event. I don't want to give away too much about the event, but it's big lights, big sound, big New Orleans. You'll probably hear a little bit of jazz music, see some things you haven't seen before live. Nothing terrible, just some New Orleans type sights. So I would encourage you, if you come to Karnea, that evening is kind of that kickoff and big show, big welcome. Thursday at Karnea, we have programming. Some of you may know that the fraternity recently implemented a 5-year strategic plan. And each day at Karnea, we are highlighting a section of that strategic plan. So on Thursday is our member engagement day, where our programming, our Karnea programming and speakers that day are focusing on member engagement. A lot of programming on new member education and our membership education program, The Road. July 25th, we're focusing our programming on growth and recruitment. So we're inviting fired up recruitment experts out of Indy. They're going to do some big programs for us, and that will be a great program, our Karnea recruitment programs, as well as programs on community service and JDRF. So that day is focused on that. And then on Saturday is our alumni engagement day, where our programming will focus on how to develop alumni chapters, a little bit on some alumni data we've learned over the last year about how alumni stay engaged, some Dealt for Life, some panel discussions on how to stay engaged as an alumnus. Point being, a lot of our programs each day will focus on each of those specific tenets of the fraternity strategic plan. Thursday, member engagement, Friday, growth and service, and Saturday, alumni engagement. So programmatically, we have worked hard to keep the content high level. So if you're an alumnus, you're not going to hear nuts and bolts type stuff. You're going to hear some high-level conversations about Greek life and Delta Tau Delta. If you're recruitment chair, we're going to focus on high-level types of things with recruitment. And member ed, same thing. It's not going to be a lot of nuts and bolts. My charge to Ellen Church, our Director of Leadership, is we need to keep the programs fast-moving, fast-paced, a little bit of edutainment, keep them entertained. But let's get in and let's get
Swanson.
Let's get in and let's get out, and also at the same time we selected our best facilitators, who can really hold students in the palm of their hand and educate. So our curriculum we're excited about, and Ellen has worked hard to put that together. Also at Karnea, besides the educational components, we have 3 meal events. We have a luncheon on Thursday, a luncheon on Friday. We have some speakers already lined up who will inspire us and educate us, and you can read their bios on delts.org who we've asked to come to speak. I think you'll find them interesting and fascinating. We also at Karnea, it's a time for recognition. We will have the AAAs, the highest DELT recognition, honored, and one of the recipients is NBC News correspondent Bob Dotson. And I had to think a little bit before I remembered who Bob was, but if you see a picture of him, you'll recognize him. Bob's accepted the AAA, and Bob's doing an alumni program for us on Saturday after the ritual. Schedule at Karnea, like I said, you register on Thursday. We go Thursday afternoon, evening, Wednesday, legislative day, programming day, Thursday, programming, Friday, programming, and then Saturday, like we did in Austin, the ritual is in the morning, and then the elections for officers are in the afternoon. And our out-of-hotel event on Friday afternoon, we haven't finalized it yet, but I believe we're going to end up doing a riverboat cruise on the Mississippi, a dinner cruise, hosted and sponsored by our local hospitality committee. So you don't see it on the website yet because the contract hasn't been signed. Registration is live. Chapters are asked strongly to make sure they have the proper number of delegates there, but all undergraduates are welcome. You can register online. If you are a chapter advisor or a designated division volunteer, your registration is comped by the division, and I don't have the list in front of me, but I believe several of the divisions are also, and this is on the website, are comping your room registration. If you believe you are comped by the division. If you want to double check that, you can call Lisa Purcell in the office, and she can tell you if you're on the comp list. If you're the actual full-time advisor recognized by the division, you are. If you're not sure, and I'm not sure of everybody's status on the call, then you can check with Lisa. If you believe you should be comped and you're not, then you could take that up with each division president. The key about registration is midnight on April 31st, the registration fee jumps $30. So it's real important that you encourage your chapters to April 30th, excuse me. It's real important that you encourage your chapters to register before midnight on April 30th to take advantage of the early bird registration rate. That's really, really important. To save them money. We also have a very good hotel rate, $109. This was a pre-Katrina contract, so we got a great rate. So $109 is very, very good. Lowest our Karnea rate will probably ever be again. So while registration did jump up a little bit, our food costs a little bit more at this hotel, you will save money on your hotel. It's going to be a great Karnea, guys. I mentioned the steamboat. One of the things we hope to do is do a parade from the Sheraton to the dock with kind of a New Orleans-style parade, then do the Karnea photo on the way to the dock, and then take the boat out for the cruise. If you haven't been to a Karnea, you don't know what you're missing, so please try to make it down there. Bring a good-sized chapter delegation. Be represented. You're going to have a great event.
Andy,
any questions?
How would you, talking to the advisor, how would you advise them to sell this to the chapter? I mean, I know that every chapter has to have a minimum of, is it 2 or 3 people?
Yeah, I believe it's 3.
So what advice would you give the advisors as to how to sell this to their undergraduate?
Well, that's a good question. This is a family event. This is where Delta Tau Delta happens, and I guess I would be perplexed by the question to a certain extent. Why wouldn't they want to attend? I do realize that it's several days out of the summer, and if they're working, and I appreciate that, every day off's money they may not have for dues or for tuition. But this is a family event, and each chapter really, really needs to be represented so they can, more than maybe take back content, although we're going to have some great programs, but just to share fraternity on a broader scale, to realize, it's not all about our chapter here at Muhlenberg or West Virginia or UCLA. There's a bigger fraternity out there, and they will see that on display at Karnea. And I've never heard anybody, this will be my 6th Karnea, and I'm really a newbie in many ways on this, but I've never heard anybody leave Karnea and say, that sucked, why did I come to this? They leave there more fired up, more determined to be involved and get engaged. So I think you appeal to the emotional, Alan. You appeal to their sense of duty. They took an oath as a member at some point. This brings it all home for our members, and not only undergraduates but alumni as well.
Andy, this is Tony Hilton. What is the registration?
Registration fee, the early bird registration fee is $365.
Okay.
What all does that cover, Andy?
That covers, it's going to cover the riverboat cruise and dinner. Like I said, not on the website yet because I hadn't contracted yet, but we're getting close to getting that done. It'll cover 2 luncheons and a banquet. My food cost is expensive. It's just expensive to do hotel meals. It covers all registration materials. It covers access to all of the events. It does not cover hotel rooms. I had a chapter last year come to Austin, and they thought that the registration fee covered their hotel rooms. Fortunately, we got them into the hotels, but it does not cover the hotel. It does not cover travel. It covers. We are buying T-shirts this year. It's the price of admission. It's the price that hang the lights and to turn the sound on. All that things.
But there's 4 meals plus the conference.
Correct.
Sounds like. Okay.
Correct.
I appreciate that. The other thing is, Is it 2 or 3 reps from each chapter? I thought it was 2.
You know, I'm looking now just to verify that because now I even question myself.
This is Pete Beckwith from Kappa at Hillsdale.
Yeah, I'm looking. Hey, Pete, well, let me get back to you on that.
This is Larry Swanson. I believe, if I recall correctly, there are 2 alumni, or two undergraduate, 1 alumni.
Right, that's what I was thinking, but I wanted, if it's 3, I want to make sure we got 3 people there. But I thought it was the chapter advisor and 2 undergraduates.
And then for each approved alumni advisor in the North, Western Plains, and Western Pacific, half of each hotel night, maximum of 4 nights, will be reimbursed by the division. And those are submitted at the end of the Karnea to the division treasurer. So.
Okay, so you're saying the Western Plains is reimbursing half the hotel cost?
Correct.
Okay.
After the conference, so you won't see anything on your bill. You pay, and then you seek reimbursement from the division treasurer afterwards.
Right. Okay.
I'm looking on the website, and
what's the late registration amount?
It goes up to. Give me a second here. Let me pull that out. Give me a minute. Any other questions I can answer while I'm looking? I'm looking for my budget information.
Andy, this is Tony Hilton again. Will the website have where guests can attend, like dinners and the cruise and so forth?
We do have a guest registration fee is the same as the Dell registration fee. We do offer, there is a guest program that's on Thursday, and that information is just being finalized, and that'll be up on the website early next week. There's a guest day, 8 to 3 o'clock, where we're going to be doing. Well, we're not going. The local committee will help host this. Some tours around the French Quarter area. Guests are certainly free to register. We don't have at this point a per meal rate, but if your spouse attends and she wants to come just to the banquet, we will make something available later in June where that's possible, or you can contact me early and we can take care of that.
Okay.
It's nothing we're advertising right at this point.
Okay, great.
And I'm still trying to find those budget numbers, so stay close.
The website right here if you want me to read it, Andy.
Yeah, read those to me. I don't focus too much on because I want everybody to register for their early birds. So I don't think about those higher fees.
Sure. So speaking just for undergraduates, if you register prior to May 1st, it's $364. If you register between May 1st and June 30th, it is $394. If you register after June 30th, it jumps to $424.
After what was the date? After June 30th?
30, yeah. So if you hit July, the month of the conference, then it jumps.
Okay. Thank you.
Not a problem. And then also, so there's 3 delegates per chapter, 2 being an undergraduate and 1 being an alumnus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or their designees. So each chapter will be sending 3, but it's 2 undergraduates that are required.
Right.
But certainly send more. There's a lot to learn.
At a minimum, it's 2, yes.
Yeah. That's Karnea, gentlemen. Yeah, another question? Gentlemen, I hope to see you in New Orleans. It's going to be a great event. If you're planning ahead in 2018, we're going to be in Orlando, Florida, at the Hyatt Regency Grand Cypress near Disney. Week after this, August 1st, something like that. So Orlando in 2018.
Where's 2016?
2016 Orlando, 2018. Right now we're looking at St. Louis.
No, wait a minute. Did you just say 2016 is Orlando and 2018 you're looking at St. Louis?
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Gentlemen, thank you. Hope to see you in July.
See you later.
Thank you, Andy.
Alan, I'm going to sign off now.
All right, thanks, Andy. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, guys, thank you.
So I heard Larry and Pete come in during his Karnea presentation. Was there anybody else that's joined the call? Okay. Sorry, let me get back to my presentation so I know what. Where's it at? So yeah, Karnea really is quite an outstanding event. It's hard to put into words just the atmosphere that you walk into. So if you haven't been, I greatly encourage you to attend and bring as many of the undergraduates as you can. I know that the cost is a little steep. A lot of chapters just budget for it, so it's not an out-of-pocket. But if your chapter hasn't budgeted for it by this time, then you're a little behind the game. But maybe they can set up a lemonade stand or something like that.
Yeah, it kind of took the breath away from the Theta Omicron charger the Sunday night, but he recovered.
Okay. So now we're going to kind of shift into FAAR, and I'd just be curious, has anybody on the call been to FAAR before?
Yes.
Yes.
Was that Larry?
Yes.
All right.
I have as well. This is Bill
Waco or Sullivan?
Sullivan.
Sullivan.
This is Tony Hilton. I was at the new advisor event there in Indianapolis last August.
Right. Yep. And that's a little bit of a different event, but so FAAR is the Presidents and Advisors Retreat. This summer is the 11th retreat that's being hosted here at the Fishers Nichols headquarters in Indianapolis, just outside of Indianapolis and Fishers. This is a conference that is designed to help the relationship between the advisor and the chapter president. It will let me get it is held May 16th through the 18th, and check-in and the program starts at 2 p.m. on the 16th, and we wrap up by noon on the 18th. There are guest speakers that come in and talk. There are some Delta alumni that help facilitate, and then the staff will be here throughout the weekend as well. It's only $100 per chapter, so that's the only registration cost. We will cover your travel, we'll cover your hotel, we'll cover your food. So after you pay that initial $100, you do not owe anything else out of pocket. So it's a great deal. It's one of the best deals that we have going on. The downside is it's also during a Karnea year, so you're asking for a couple different weekends during the same summer, and especially if you also are going to go to an Ignite or a Charge. But this event right here, I can't recommend enough. It's the most economical. It's only $100. And after that, we'll fly you in, or if you're driving, we reimburse mileage. And then, you get your hotel and food all for just that $100. What you'll find is that FAAR focuses on the risk management and accountability within chapter operations. It focuses on the role of the president and the advisor, and you're both in the room during this session, so that way you can understand. But the chapter president gets a better understanding of what your actual role is, as well as you can kind of understand a little. I mean, you should have a good idea of what the president's role is, but hearing that president express what they view their role as president can sometimes be pretty eye-opening to the advisor as well. We focus on chapter strengths. So this is a kind of a fun exercise to where, we ask the advisor and the president to basically write down everything that their chapter does well, kind of like on a report card. And then we go back and relate that to your recruitment message. Try to judge whether or not you're actually providing what you're selling. So if you're recruiting somebody saying, we have this GPA, and we know we're great at this event and this event, but then you go back to this report card and you see that those aren't really your strengths, and so that leads to your retention rate of the new members. It leads to the strength of your recruitment message. If you're actually selling what you're doing well, and you're not overcommitting yourselves to being something that you're not. So that actual exercise is pretty interesting to see the difference between what they feel going in.
Drew Riley.
They feel afterwards. Hi, who was that?
This is Drew.
Hey, Drew, how you doing?
Doing pretty well. I actually just got home.
Okay, well, welcome. Then you also will do some strategic planning at PAR, then some different goal setting, and then also just works on the relationship between the president and the advisor. Other intangible things that we can't measure, but we know it's there, is just you building a network and being able to have discussions with other chapter advisors and chapter presidents, being able to talk to other chapter presidents and realizing that you're not in this bubble all by yourselves, that you can talk to another chapter that's having the same problems you are or were having, and so you can try to work through some of the different scenarios that you're facing, whether it be with recruitment, whether it be with members paying their bills, whether it be a hazing or risk management, or just a lack of motivation by seniors. You're kind of building your network to where you can reach out to other chapters that have been or are in that same boat and get advice from them, as well as you'll get to meet all the different officers and directors here at the central office, get a better understanding of the resources that they can play and that they can provide for you and your chapter, so that way it's not just somebody on the phone that's always or sending out emails, but there's actually a person behind those, and that they have great passion and care for the chapter operations, and we're not just always out to be the bad guys. So that's what we see coming out of the PAR. Other things that we've seen as we start to look at is, and we'll talk about the FAAR in a little bit, but on average, the chapters that attend PAR will see their FAAR ranking improve by 11 spots. So some of those that are on the fence of winning the Court of Honor or the Hugh Shields, will benefit greatly from attending PAR on average, going up 11 spots. So if you're not in number 23 or 24, this might give you that little boost to get over that edge and be a Court of Honor chapter. And seeing Tony on the line here, colonies that attend PAR, on average will charter 3 months earlier than the colonies that don't attend. And I apologize if you're looking at the screen and my words got cut off there. But so generally the colonies that have attended will get their charter about 3 months earlier. So maybe half a semester to a semester earlier.
Message received.
And then also there is, the advisors that we talked to afterwards just say, how much easier it was that following semester, because it felt that, the chapter president understood where your stance is. You guys just have a better working relationship. So those are the benefits that we generally see. Now, registration for PAR So the registration for PAR is April 1st. Now, I'll say right now that there are still plenty of openings. So as long as there's an opening, and if it's April, 6th or 7th, but by the time you guys get the application in, we'll still accept it. We'll still accept applications after the 1st. We'd encourage you to register beforehand. Now here's the tricky part, is that the chapter president is the one who registers, and they register via Delts Connect. They're the only one that sees the application for PAR. So, and I know sometimes it's frustrating to advisors. It's just the way that the Delts Connect operates, and I don't understand it completely myself. but they're the only ones that see the link to application for FAAR. It's a very simple application, but so work with your chapter president, get this on his schedule, and then have him go to Delts Connect and register. If you're having problems, getting your president to register, or if he has problems, then just contact Ellen or Dave Seary here at the central office. If you just call in and say, I have a question about FAAR, you'll get directed directly to them. They can probably do your registration over the phone as well if for some reason Delts Connect isn't working. And then, David, I just saw your question. We'll wrap up by noon on Sunday.
Thank you.
Yep, not a problem. And generally we get out of here a little bit earlier than that, but at the very end we kind of do a pass the badge or a pass the gavel. So sometimes, depending on how long-winded some of our attendees are, it can take a little bit longer. But we try to get you in the air before, or we try to get you on the road to the airport by noon at the latest. Questions about PAR or Bill or Larry? Is there anything that you want to add about your experience?
Yeah, there's Larry. I just wondered about would it be feasible to have a chapter president and an assistant advisor attend?
No, we've had that in the past, and if that chapter assistant, you said assistant chapter advisor, right? If they have a good working relationship, so if they are generally the one that works with the executive board, then absolutely that can work.
Okay, now.
Especially if it's somebody you're starting to transition into that position.
Now,
this would be
partly that, and partly that Jake Clapp, president of Theta Omicron, told me that he is applying. He told me Sunday evening he was applying. And I said, fine. He asked me if I could go, and I told him yes. But I'm wondering about Epsilon Omicron and Jake Sweeney and the possibility of Taylor Platt.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a problem. We could make that work. Again, I would. Ellen Schertzer and Dave Seary are the ones who ultimately run this program. I do not see that as any kind of hindrance.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. You said you had attended in the past. You want to tell everybody a little bit about your experience?
Well, it's been nothing but positive. I'll certainly say that. I mean, the experience with attending an event like that with the chapter president is beneficial for both. To get to learn more about each other, have fun with each other at the various workshops, and I think that the questions and the answers for recruitment, what is revealed there is can certainly be significant, as you suggested. The meal and recreational time out at the park is fun too. Everybody gets a kick out of that, and just visiting. So the whole event is very good, and it's certainly worth $100.
Excellent, Bill. Did you want to say? I don't want to put you on the spot, but Mr. Sullivan, is there anything that you want to add to there?
I couldn't. Everything that he said is definitely true. And just kind of further, I really, I thought it helped the relationship between me and the president greatly. We were able to communicate a lot easier afterwards than we were prior to it. So it definitely helped a lot.
Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to write something down here. So, excellent. Are there any questions about FAAR that I can answer before we move on? All right. So let's go go into the FAAR. And is there anybody on the line that did not attend a division conference?
This is the last set.
One in Pittsburgh, I didn't.
Okay.
I wasn't at the divisional conference, no.
All right. Who was that? Is that Bill Lako?
That's Drew.
Oh, that was Drew. Okay. Okay. So we covered the FAAR pretty heavily during the division conference, so I didn't want to dwell on it too much and repeat and burn everybody out on it, but I'll kind of do a high-level impact of the FAAR and then how it actually can work for advisors. I also have right in front of me everybody's FAAR scores. So if you want to know how your chapter did, if they haven't reported that yet, if you want to know what your chapter's score was and even what kind of rank they were within the fraternity, I'd be happy to share that with you guys. So at a very high level, the FAAR is the Fraternity Accreditation and Awards Report. So it's basically our tool to measure the chapters and their progress towards excellence. Part of it is the accreditation, so just that they're meeting the basic standards, reporting everything that they are doing well. If I click on this tab, does your view change? I've done this with two tabs. So those that are on the website looking at the webinar, are you looking at the FAAR right now?
Yes.
Okay.
This is Larry, and I'm wondering what the event password is. I tried to type something in and it didn't work.
Yep, it's Bethany with a capital B, so BETHANY.
Oh, okay. With a capital B.
Capital
Thank
B.
you.
Sorry, but yeah, I don't know why this software was asking for that. It's never done that in the past. So currently on the screen, so the 2014 FAAR requirements are already posted on Delts Connect. If people are not, anybody on this call is not comfortable using Delts Connect, I will email this document out to you if you'd like it that way as well. But it is available on Delts Connect under the headquarters DocuShare. There's a folder called FAAR, and it's 2014 FAAR. So it's right there. As you are looking at the FAAR, it's got the accreditation. So everything that's going to be due in November are already on the website. This is what I think a lot of chapters miss and why they always seem so rushed to get everything done, is that right now they could already be filling out some of these accreditation and keeping track of the events that they've done to meet their FAAR requirements. So really, my advice, and I might be skipping ahead a slide, my advice is to use this more as a planning document than a reporting tool. At the central office, we use it as a reporting tool, but for the chapter, it's really that planning document. So going back to this slide really fast, and I'll switch back and forth. The FAAR submission is mandatory. So this is not an optional thing. Failure to reach accreditation can lead to a cease and desist. So we can actually, eventually pull your charter depending on how the Arch chapter feels if the FAAR is not completed. Generally, after a couple years, if you just are habitually not doing it and not meeting accreditation standards, then your chapter can come up for review by the Arch chapter. All the standards that are in the FAAR are either recommendations by staff or volunteers, normally division presidents or Arch chapter members, and then it's actually ratified by the Arch chapter. So that's not something that just somebody here in the office is sitting down saying, oh, I think all the chapters should have to do this. It's put a lot of thought into it, and then the Arch chapter votes on it and ratifies those standards. The 2014 FAAR, the one that we just awarded at the division conferences, had a maximum of 540 points that were eligible. The number one chapter scored 530. So throughout all of the different sections, they only lost 10 points, and they knew that going in. So they already there was something that they had forgotten to submit. That chapter was Beta Zeta at Butler University. And so I think some of you probably know Randy Claybrook. He does a really good job of using this as a planning document as they meet during their retreats and start looking ahead to their next semester, their next year, versus just waiting until October and trying to make everything they did fit into these points. The top 10 chapters ranged of score from 530 to 494. So again, these chapters are not missing very many points. They're completing their document. They have all the supporting documentation that's required. And so sometimes we have the discussion as to, are these guys really an excellent chapter, or are they just really good at putting together a binder? It's a little bit of both, but you have to have the documentation and the support to back it up. So it's not just that you can kind of write this fluff piece and send it in and win it fields. You still have to be a chapter that is pretty firing on all cylinders operational. But I know that there's a lot of great chapters out there that aren't getting the recognition that they deserve just because they're not putting a lot of time and focus into this binder. That being said, the Court of Honor scores, they range from that 530, which was Beta Zeta, down to 456. So there's not a lot of variance between all of those scores. It's just a couple points going throughout the grading scale. The average of, there's a typo, the average of all the scores was 346 points. So that's kind of the average chapter score. And out of the 131 chapters, 14 did not submit the FAAR. Now, 5 of those were colonies, and we do not require colonies to submit a that still means that 9 chapters failed to submit a FAAR and are do some kind of remediation or pay some kind of sanctions for not doing so. And so, if I will, is there anybody that know their FAAR score or how they kind of averaged that would like to know before I go into this last point?
This is Dave Royer at Gamma Tau. I have a question about that. We discussed it at the division conference, and we saw the breakdown and the score sheet, the rubrics that was used for grading, but our chapter only received the total aggregate score. Is there a way to get the breakdown score for each section from the FAAR?
So like on each, like Section 1 academics and Section 2 finance, that?
Right, to see where we missed a point, where we did well mostly. I think we know where to improve, but I wanted to highlight, what they did really well also.
So you didn't get your actual score sheet back?
No, correct. We just got the email from Lisa with the total score.
Okay. Yeah, I can get that to you. They were supposed to be handed out right after the banquet, right after the Hugh Shield flag.
Right, so we were told that I don't think anybody got it.
Yeah, I will email that to you. We scan them.
Oh, great.
So let me see if I can. But looking at Gamma Tau, I can't. So I was gonna try to figure out what place you were in. But your name's not jumping at me. Does anybody else not know their score? Did they know they did not get a score sheet back? Oh, Gamma Tau, you had a 307 and found yourself in 88th place. So, for improvement there, but not near the back of the pile.
Right. Also, could you explain how the Q Shield and Court of Honor determined? We always thought, in my experience, the top 10 scores were Hugh Shields and numbers 11 through 20 were Court of Honor, but there were some chapters that received both at the division conference, so we were all confused.
Sure. The Hugh Shields is awarded to the top 10 chapters by their scores. Now, sometimes, and that is all up to the Arch chapter, sometimes they're only awarded 9. Sometimes there might be 11 in the case of ties or scores that are really, really close. But by the general rule, it's the top 10. Now, the Court of Honor is that top 10 plus 10 more. So it's the top 20 chapters are the Court of Honor. So if you're a Hugh Shields winner, you are also a Court of Honor winner.
Okay.
Yeah, so sorry if there was any confusion about that. And then there are also there are some universities that, due to sanctions, whether it be MRG infractions or other outstanding any other sanctions that got put on their chapter, they are ineligible for Hugh Shields for a certain number of times. So there may be, the number 3 chapter, may have had the number 3 score actually did not win Hugh Shields because they had sanctions either from us or from their campus that prevented them from winning that award. So just because you do a good binder, you still have to keep your nose clean on your campus and also within the fraternity itself.
Well, that refers to Court of Honor also.
It does, yes. All these awards, and there have been people that have them awarded, and we've had to travel down and take them back as well. If during the year they do some kind of egregious violation. So absolutely, it's not it's Court of Honor and Hugh Shields. But I'll just go from my list here as to who our top 10 were and who actually did not receive it. But let's talk just briefly about the award-winning chapters. So as you begin looking at this document here, of course, there's the timeline as far as when everything is due. The accreditation items are actually submitted through DELTS Connect. You don't have to wait to the deadline to submit that. You can submit those as early as you want if it's done, and then that gives time for staff to review it, and if there's corrections that need to be made, then the staff will make recommendations on how to improve it and then send it back. You can submit that as many times as you want up until the due date. On the due date, that final submission, that's the one that gets scored. But you can keep working towards that perfect score up until that due date. So if you want to submit your budget now, even though it's not due, then our finance department will look at it and they'll either accept it and say, okay, you now have that part checked off for your accreditation, or they say you're missing this, work on it. They'll send it back to you. You can make those corrections and then resubmit for full points. So you can submit as many times as you want. It's the last submission that we get before the due or on the due date that gets graded. If it's an action that's not just a check mark. Some of the accreditation items are just check marks as to yes you did it, no you didn't. But if it's something that's subjective, then you can get responses back. In November 15th, around that time is when everything is graded. There's a team of volunteers that come in, so the staff does not grade your FAARs. We will look at some of the accreditation items, but the actual programming part of it we do not look at. There's one volunteer from each division that comes into the central office for a weekend, and they grade all 131 FAAR packets during that weekend. And so it's not the staff, it's not us having any kind of bias against each other or against a certain chapter. It's all graded through volunteers, and then notification of award winning is through division conferences. And Justin, I see your question. I will get your score to you in just a few minutes. So as you're looking at the FAAR, so here we go into section 1, which talks about academics. The items that are actual accreditation items. Those are things that have to be met for your chapter to be accredited. And these are the more basic things that just talks about your GPA, your roster, your budget, those type of things. It's nothing that's really subjective. So it's either a yes, no for most instances. And then, so, looking at, are you guys in good standing? Do you have your minimum GPAs, etc.? So I'm not going to go over the whole document, but sorry, I'm getting a dry throat here. And again, it starts looking at budget and your outstanding balances. What the trend is with the Hugh Shields and the Court of Honor winners is that they will print this off now with the new executive board that just started a few months ago and sit down and plan out their year as to what they actually have to, what we're looking for. So if there's an item on here about road programs, and let me back up just a minute here. They can see that, they want us to do 5 road programs. Let's get these on our calendars and start working on it now. On page 3 of the FAAR, it'll say what's new in 2014. So you can see this highlights what has changed since the previous FAAR. It is, some of it's just clerical. Some of it's combining things, but, so you don't have to have guest speakers in a new member program anymore. But we're asking you to do 5 road programs. Road programs can coincide with other programs as long as your topic is in the right area. You get points for members completing an application for Ignite. So those type of events. And so what the award-winning chapters generally do is they sit down at the beginning of their semester and map out their, as they start making their goals, they start looking at their calendar. They use this FAAR document to see how we're going to measure their excellence, and they make sure that all of those are accounted for, as well as they start up their collection and their documentation now. So it's really easy right now to create a photo bucket or a Google Doc or something so that as you are completing things this semester that will count towards next year's submission, it's already collected, it's already there. You do not have to wait until October, think back until this semester, and try to remember everything that you did and who was there and what's going to happen. Because right now you're going to have X number of seniors graduate in a couple months, and you lose all of that knowledge. You lose all that retention. You lose any of their documents, any of their photos. So by starting on this now, the basic parts that you can do now, you get to retain all that information, even if people do not come back for a semester, if they're studying abroad, or they're graduating or just transferring to community college or whatever nature. There are also it's not an official position by their constitution, but they have a FAAR chairman who just, it's not necessarily just the secretary. Sometimes it is the secretary, but, it's not just the secretary. It's not all in the president. But there's a FAAR chairman who just keeps track of the documents that they will need to compile in order to submit the FAAR. So that way, when it comes to October, and they're starting to compile all this at the same time they're getting ready for Thanksgiving break and getting into finals, it's not overly stressful for them. All they do is basically print out a bunch of things, double check everything, and mail it in. Does that make sense?
Now, a question for you. There's Larry. Is the FAAR requirements for 2014 the same as 2013 regarding new member education programs? And I'm thinking of of any differences there might be between what we've been doing in the past for new member education and the new trial program which Epsilon Omicron is using.
Right. As of right now, there's a couple of things that are changed. If you look at this, if you look at your screen right now, it's what's new in 2014. So within the new member program, we took out the requirement requiring the guest speakers.
Okay.
But we didn't, because it's not going to be unveiled till Karnea, which is halfway through the reporting cycle. We're not really requiring anything with the pilot program that you've been going through for new member education.
Okay.
Now that you going through that pilot program is probably going to assist you in completing the FAAR requirements that are out there, but there's nothing specific pertaining to that pilot program.
Okay.
It's still under review, and
right. Yeah.
There's a call last night. They're still talking some different things. So that should, if the green light is granted to unveil it, then that will be unveiled to Karnea at one of the events for all members to receive at the same time after it's kind of embedded. And so no, there's no specific requirements as far as that pilot program in the FAAR this year. Maybe next year. I don't know.
Yeah. Right.
FAAR? Any other questions about the FAAR? Are there any questions in general? I think we are pretty much at the end of our hour, so I'm going to be respectful of your time. But I know I did want to, get as many people, and unfortunately we only have a small handful of the 130. But I really appreciate everybody being here. I will stay on the line as long as needed. If you have specific questions for me, anything I can get for you from the central office, any questions that you might have about the things that we covered tonight, or just about AT or advising or any kind of thing that you're facing now, I'd be happy to. We will have our last webinar of the semester next month on the 15th from 8. And again, if you want to review anything here tonight, this was recorded. It'll be uploaded to probably tomorrow, and I'll put that link to everybody. But if you do not have a question, then I thank you for attending, and the conference call is done. But if you do want to sit down and ask a question, I am all yours.